I'm back in Toronto now, but on Friday, I was out in beautiful Banff, Alberta, because I heard that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was there, the environmental activist and much more notably the nephew of JFK. He was jetting in with a few dozen of his closest friends for a skiing weekend. Isn't that the thing about environmentalist celebrities these days? They really don't do a lot of their work on the phone or email or even by Skype. They have to jet around to do it. They jet around telling us not to drive around. Now, I'm not a big stargazer, but this sounded like a lot of fun. It was a meeting of Kennedy's group called the Waterkeepers Alliance, an environmental group that specializes in that most American form of protest, suing people. I didn't have an invitation, but there was a sort of public part to the get-together. Kennedy's friends were going to be skiing that day at a beautiful ski resort called Sunshine, and press were allowed to stand around next to the end of a toboggan hill and buttonhole them for a few moments, like being on a snowy red carpet. I had no idea how it would go, if I'd be kicked out after just a few minutes, who I'd meet, would I see Kennedy himself, and have a chance to ask him about, you know, rich foreign playboys flying into Canada to try to lecture us about our politics. Because that's a hot topic in Canada these days. Foreign richie riches, foreign trust fund kids, lobbyists, and lawyers usually coming up here, treating Canada as their political plaything instead of as a sovereign, independent country that we are. You know, the kind of folks who've jammed up Canada's own government hearings about the Northern Gateway pipeline. Countless foreign-funded NGOs jetting in to tell Canadians that, no, we can't have our jobs. See, that's the sort of question that might get a fellow ejected from a Hollywood get-together. So I didn't know what to expect. If I'd have a chance to talk to Kennedy himself, I'd ask him some tough questions because he's the ringleader. But for most of the celebrities, I just want to get them on the record. No point in debating them in a gotcha sort of way. We were on a ski hill for a fun day and they just ski away from me. But maybe I could draw them out into a conversation about the environment, including my favorite topic, ethical oil. Now, let me confess my prejudice. I went there thinking I would be listening to arrogant, condescending, do as I say, not as I do, limousine liberals. And there was a bit of that. But mostly, it was Hollywood stars just having fun on a ski hill and not being particularly political. It's like they just looked for an excuse to party and they were leaving the political BS to a Kennedy. In fact, some of the celebrities in town for Kennedy's environmental event said they just didn't know enough about politics or environment or things like oil pipelines, and those that did talk about them gave answers that surprised me in a good way. I talked to about a dozen celebrities, from A-listers like Alec Baldwin to hangers-on who I had to look up on Google Images afterwards. I'm going to show you the most interesting clips from my visit, the good, the bad, and the awesome. I'm going to save the best for later, my conversation with Alec Baldwin, who drove up in an SUV. I asked him where he'd rather get his gas from, a gas pump marked made in Canada or one marked made in Saudi Arabia. You'll find his answer creative, but I'll save the best for last, an interview with a surprising celebrity who talked to me longer than anyone else, a more successful man than all the rest of them put together. An A-lister for sure, a Hollywood type that Forbes magazine says is one of the richest men in America, with a fortune worth $4 billion, more than all the rest of the celebrities they've put together. I won't give away more about him, but suffice it to say, he certainly destroyed my preconceptions about Hollywood leftist know-nothings. I had a lot of fun out there in Banff on Friday, but I learned a bit more about the fake environmental movement of Hollywood. I fear it less than I did before because I know more about it. And after today's show, I think you will too. I was hanging out with the stars, interviewed about a dozen of them, and I'm going to show you the clips on today's show. And in between those clips, I'm going to talk to my friends Jacqui Delaney and Lorrie Goldstein, and we'll laugh, we'll cry. You know, it'll be a Hollywood experience. Hey, Jacqui, host of Newswire, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, pleasure as always.
It's great to have you. And Lorrie, you're our environmental expert, and this is going to be a little more fun. There's not a lot of deep political thoughts here, but there are a few, and I'd like your thoughts on those too. So you guys ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, the first clip is Ed Begley Jr., and to remind folks who he is, he's in a lot of funny movies. He was in St. Elsewhere, that hospital soap years ago, but here's a clip of him in the movie Pineapple Express, just to refresh your memory.
You guys can wait as long as you want, but 1 minute from right now, I'm gonna eat some food, and you can call it rude, you can call whatever you want. And you can be all polite with your clean plates, but I'm going to be eating food.
Dad, you'll be here.
And I'm going to go in the other room and eat it and check my email because I'm done with
Honey,
this.
we're
I'm
at
not
the
thrilled
table.
with
No
you two
one's
either
going to
right now.
leave the table.
He's sort of funny. He's always a little bit eccentric, not just on camera, but in his real life. You know, he leads an extreme eco lifestyle, which I admire him for. Here's a clip of his long-suffering wife sort of complaining about it. Look at this.
You're not going to waste this. There's a pet food water.
Oh, my God.
You put this right on top. Top, sweetie, please.
You will tell everyone about what I'm enduring here, won't you?
Yes, I will.
Please.
I will. I sort of see what Rochelle is dealing with.
There's hope. I'm not crazy.
That's a reality show about Ed Begley and his wife living in his super eco-friendly house. So Ed Begley was actually the very first person I bumped into at this ski hill, and I thought, well, such a fella like that who like recycles his own pee and stuff, he's going to be very hardline and preachy. Well, I was in for a surprise. Look at what he said when I approached him.
I wouldn't presume to dictate what you do in this great country. You're protecting the environment in a wonderful way, but we have decisions to make about the pipeline going through our country, and I've always been pushing renewables as an alternative, and so I have a solar-powered house, and I drive an electric vehicle around LA, so as much of that as we can do, I think renewables is a key. We need, in the meantime, some fossil fuels, certainly, so you guys get to decide what happens here in your good country, and we're going to make some decisions in the States, and I'm not in favor of the pipeline personally.
Jackie, he's a lot more normal in person than he is in his own reality show.
And to his poor wife. Hey, you know what? He said it all for me just right there. You know, we'll make the decisions in our country, Keystone. You make the decisions in your country, Northern Gateway. Enough said.
I was surprised by that. Something else that surprised me, Lori, is he said, well, for the foreseeable future, we're going to need fossil fuels. I mean, he's not living in some dream world where we could all go in windmill-driven buggies. What do you make of that? I was startled by that.
I disagree with him on the XL pipeline, but he does live this lifestyle sincerely. And while I'd ask him, well, how did you get to Banff? Did you do this, or did you take a jet? But no, he doesn't. That's a perfectly reasonable position.
Of all of the guys who were at this event, he lives the lifestyle most honestly. And I thought he was quite modest. I mean, he wasn't coming up here to lecture. I was very surprised. Here's another clip when I asked him, well, of those fossil fuels, which do you prefer, us or OPEC? Roll the clip, please.
Like, as oil goes, is there oil that's more ethical than other oil?
I certainly enjoy as much trading with our dear friends to the north in Canada and Mexico to the south, you know, but the pipeline is a thorny issue. So, you know, I'm always pushing renewables as the first and foremost way to go.
Fair enough.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day. Thanks for being here.
You know what? I couldn't help but like the guy. I was ready to fight with him, but I thought, you know, he wants to buy more from his neighbors in Canada and Mexico. What do you think, Jackie?
That tells me all the more now. You mean I've been watching his show thinking it's real? It's clearly not.
That's right. Lori, what do you think?
No, I admire people. I admire him because he lives the lifestyle. I think there are certain hypocrisies inherent in his position. He works in Hollywood, which is the mega consumption, uses power, urges us to buy insanely, which causes the problem. Having said that, as Hollywood people go, he's pretty good.
I'm going to skip ahead to Kenny Loggins, because we had another clip from Begley, but we had now, Kenny Loggins, I'm a huge 80s retro guy, Footloose. Let's run a quick clip of Kenny Loggins, one of his old music videos, just to remember who he is.
Looking into your eyes, I know I'm right. Is anything worth my love? Is worth the fight? You only get one chance. Enough times of hair.
You're just going to let it keep playing, aren't you?
No, he's driving a car.
That's a good point. Lots of painful memories of heartbreaking grade 8 for me there, Jackie. How about you? You were dancing along. You know, that 80s dance, like really the sharp bob in the head. I feel like Elaine a little bit. What do you think of the song?
Busted him. I used to love that song. Didn't he also do the theme song from Top Gun? Jets Fuel.
He was in Footloose, that's for sure. Well, let's roll the clip of what. I mean, I started asking him some questions, and he was a little testy, testier than Ed Begley. Roll the clip.
Oh, yeah. No, it sounds like insanity to me.
But I've been pushing alternative energy for 15 years, and it just no one's ever done anything about it. You know.
Until we get to alternative energy, I guess we're driving cars and flying planes.
Yeah.
If you had to choose.
Well, how long do we want to wait?
Well, you tell me.
Because until we get there, we won't get there.
Right, but in the meantime, we got to put something in our planes and cars.
Yeah.
If you had the choice between Canadian ethanol oil and
you
Saudi
see that
alcohol,
your premise of your question is incorrect.
But how
the premise of your question is incorrect.
What's the premise?
It's not an either or. It's why aren't we doing something now?
Okay.
Why do we keep putting it off until we have to do an either or?
But while we're getting there, should we use ethanol oil from Canada?
I'm not going to answer that question.
But how did you get up here, right? You took a plane to get up here.
Yeah, but if we're talking right now about visionary, reason why Waterkeepers is here is a visionary organization. Yeah. If we keep thinking in terms of that either or, we never get to the alternative.
Lorrie, I said to him, I mean, I wasn't trying to be tough. These were guys having fun on a ski hill. I wasn't trying to be mean or gotcha. I don't think I was rude, but I said, like he was saying, I reject the premise of your question. I said to him, well, how did you get up here? He said, I don't even want to talk about ethical oil versus conflict oil. I said, well, how did you get here? He didn't answer. He rejected the question. After that, he sort of skied away. What do you make of that?
Sir, you're on a ski hill in a place that relies on fossil fuels for it so you can come. George Monbiot in Heat, who is probably the preeminent green journalist in the world, has said that the hardest thing for people like this to give up will be social flying. Flying to events, flying to weddings, flying to ski resorts, flying to Cannes, flying, you know, and it's true that will, see, that's what he doesn't understand. For the world he wants, this doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. There are no people flying off to Banff.
I mean, he was coming in from L.A. for hanging out. I mean, had a real jet set fancy feeling. I mean, I was behind a rope. You didn't see the rope. Yeah. What do you think of that, Jacqui?
Okay,
was I being too mean?
No, and before I go for the obvious, and I could get really mean and take a crack at him and say, oh my God, Kenny Loggins, what happened to you since the 80s? However, I won't go for the easy one.
30 years ago, we were all looking a little younger, Jacqui.
Is that the same guy?
We all
but no, you didn't. Of course you weren't being mean. You know what? I love it when people throw it back on us by saying, no, you're asking the wrong question. No, I'm asking the questions. Yeah. You don't get to decide if they're right or wrong. You ask the obvious question. How did you get here? It's very simple. Answer it.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, Ed Begley answered it. Yeah. And, I mean, if a man like that has the honesty to say, well, look, we got to use fossil fuels in the meantime, you think this poser could. Hey, folks, stick around. I talked to Hercules himself about Canada's oil. Who am I talking about? Find out next after the break. I've still got 10 more interviews to go, and helping me go through them is Jacqui Delaney of Newswire. Hey, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I've said that again. I'm going to keep welcoming you back. You're always welcome.
And I'm always having fun.
Lorrie Goldstein, thanks for being here. Folks, let's jump right in. You know, most of Hollywood is liberal, self-described, but there are a few conservatives, and I think one of them is our next star, Kevin Sorbo. Here's a shot of him doing his Hercules thing. This will refresh your memory. He was the pretty one in that fight, just in case you're wondering. He's still quite pretty. And I talked to him in Banff. Let's roll the clip of my interview with him, and then I'll ask our panel what they thought. Roll the first clip of Kevin Sorbo.
It's man's nature, I think, to build and whatever else in there, but there's got to be a balance. Certainly there's got to be a balance. And, you know, you don't want to destroy the things that are, I mean, water, how important is water? I mean, trust me, we're Americans. We're coming for your water and your oil. So we'll be here.
Right now, until renewables are, you know, practical.
Right.
We're using oil.
Yeah, exactly. People, you know, a lot of people don't realize the number of products that they use oil in. They think it's just their cars. You know, it's not just that. It's not such. It's not that quick and easy of a fix to do it. And you know, we're working on it. Hey, we're not going to see everything in our lifetime, but you know, patience is a virtue. You know?
I thought that was thoughtful. I mean, we forget sometimes that petrochemicals go into everything from an iPad to our computer to our VCR. I mean,
makeup on my face.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost
cosmetics, nothing. All the time. What I want to know is, how did he get in there? Did they know that he was in there?
Yeah.
He's right, though. It does. Like I said, makeup on my face, cosmetics, different items. It's so easy for people to stand on high and be judgmental. And then if you really divulge to them, I think it would shock a lot of people.
Yeah. Lorrie, let me know what you think about this next clip. Kevin Sorbo.
As an American, would you rather buy oil from ethical oil from Canada or conflict oil from OPEC?
Canada. But I think most people would. I mean, the politics in that it drives people crazy. You know, there's certain companies that, yeah, you know, we need to say, guys. I mean, really, would any of the stuff in the Middle East be going on if they didn't have oil? I think we just leave them alone, let them beat each other up, because there's been centuries of hate there, and we're not going to change that in 10 years or 100 years. It's just, it's there, and it exists. And so it's sad, but it's our world right now.
That's tough talk. He's saying, would we really be entangled in the Middle East if there wasn't oil there? I find that fairly persuasive. What do you think, Lori?
Well, I mean, just instinctively said Canada. Of course, Canada. And yeah, no, you know, very reasonable. Very reasonable.
Yeah. I went down to this place thinking here's going to be a bunch of fancy pants celebrities jetting around saying, you Canadians and your oil. I didn't find that. I went there ready to fisticuff, and I said, well, these guys are pretty friendly, and as far as they're willing to go, they're sensible. Jacqui, is this surprising to you at all?
It is, but I mean, you look at some of the people there that you spoke to, as we're going to see as well, really, to me, are ill-informed. I mean, we've looked at a couple of people like Kevin Sorbo and Ed Begley Jr., but I think that's just in the bigger picture. It just shows that a lot of times these stars go to these events and really don't have a vested interest, or really don't know what
I think they're just going for fun. I mean, It was super fun, and as much fun as I had, they had even more. I got a bunch more clips I'm going to go through. I'm going to introduce the person in their Hollywood setting, show you the clip, and then get just one-liners each, because I want to get through all who's in the show. There's similar questions I asked. It's just sort of fun to see different stars answer. The next one is Giancarlo Esposito. Who's he? He's in the show Breaking Bad. Look at this.
What does a man do, Walter? A man provides for his family.
This costs me my family.
When you have children, you always have family. They will always be your priority, your responsibility. And a man provides.
Hit show, critically acclaimed, bit of a tough guy. Here's what he was like, the exact opposite of a tough guy when he asked him about oil. Roll the clip.
Would you, if you had two pumps to choose from, one would be ethical oil from Canada, the other would be conflict oil from Saudi Arabia or OPEC, which should we use until we get to
ethical oil from Canada? I mean, obviously, Canada are our greatest allies and friends, and we need to honor that. We need to honor their absolute integrity in what they're trying to do for our environment. And I think it's very important that we deal with people who are ethical and have integrity.
I feel like I'm listening to like the Canadian ambassador, the United States trying to sell the Keystone
XL pipeline. Actually, he's a spokesperson for ethicaloil.org. He's your next guy.
I can't believe it. I mean, he lit up like a candle as soon as I said,
it's
"What
a no-brainer to
him?" He just boom. Like this was early in the morning. This was like 8:30, and then that doesn't sound early, but these guys, you could tell they just crawled out of bed, and it was.
But that's when you get a more honest answer from them, though. I think.
Well, I was very. But what do you think, Lori?
Ray, good guy. Good guy.
I mean, these are not tough questions. Who do you like better, Canada or Saudi Arabia?
No, but there's no hesitation.
Yeah.
Boom, Canada.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd caution is that what if these guys had just been loaded up with a bunch of Greenpeace propaganda?
Yeah.
Remember, these are Hollywood stars. They know they have a market in Canada.
Right.
So they're not going to be gratuitously offensive.
Right.
I'm not saying of these people, but I've noticed with a lot of Hollywood stars, they tend to believe the last person they spoke to.
Well, and they play to the audience that. I mean, here they are in Canada. I was coming across friendly. They were sort of in PR mode because they knew this was a media event. It wasn't like I was.
Yeah, you should have been on the Golden Globe carpet last night.
Yeah, I wasn't like I was at TMZ.
You would have been much better than
ambushing them. So yeah, I think they were playing to the audience, but I thought that it was a fairly honest
they're not.
answer.
So far, other than the Kenny Loggins, none of them are. They're quite reasonable.
Not just reasonable, but I didn't feel the talking down that is the modus operandi of David Suzuki and Al Gore. Here's the next guy, Edward Olmos. I remember him from Miami Vice, where he was the soft-spoken lieutenant.
He was Edward James almost then, remember?
That's right. But now he's a star in Dexter, a supporting star. Look at this.
Now, we were given free will for a reason, Travis. You can do whatever you want. As long as you're willing to accept the consequences God gives you.
Another guy who's terrifying on screen, but in person, he was just cracking jokes. First, he pretended to be Santana and George Lopez. I knew who he was, but he was trying to see if I was just confusing him with other Hispanic actors. Here's what, by the way, I knew who he was. Here's what he said when I asked him, ethical oil or conflict oil? I mean, no brainer, but he got it right. Roll.
California gets a lot of its oil from Saudi Arabia, imports from OPEC. If you had a choice between imports from a country like Saudi Arabia or oil from a country like Canada,
I'd rather get it from Canada.
Why is that?
Yeah, well, one, it supports Canada. Two, it's closer. Three, you know, we can work out a situation and try to understand ourselves better. So it's always better to do that.
I mean, these are not miraculous. First time I've ever heard these points, but they're good points, right,
Isn't
Lauren?
it kind of interesting that American movie stars have more respect for Canada than Canadian environmental groups?
Jacqui, I'm going to get you to comment on Mimi Rogers next. Here's Mimi Rogers in Ginger Snaps.
She's not funny. How did you hurt it?
Being dead.
Does it hurt down by your tailbone or is it up higher? Is it tight throughout here? Maybe. Does it ache back here?
Might.
Oh my God. Do you think it's cramps?
Clearly a girl movie I have never seen. Here's what she said when I asked her about ethical oil.
If I had to choose, I wanted to come from the most ethical source possible. And if that's Canada, absolutely.
What, compared to
OPEC, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, in terms of being realistic, we are going to rely on fossil fuels for, you know, the foreseeable future. But the most ethical way, the most environmentally sound way, and, you know, whatever nature preserves that we have left, I would really like to leave them alone.
She thinks for the foreseeable future we need fossil fuels. I don't get that kind of clarity from environmental groups.
You should have asked Mimi if she actually knows what OPEC means. Because I'm not entirely convinced she did. I'm just saying.
You know what, though? I mean, she showed some sobriety on the fact that we do need fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. That we're not going to be in
I think she heard Ed Begley say it, though, so she just repeated what he said. Not convinced she knew what it meant.
We're almost out of time for this segment. Don't worry, after the commercial break, we're going to come back for more. I want to roll you a very quick clip from Cameron Manheim. Here's a clip of her in Ghost Whisperer, just to remind you who she is, and then I'll show you my question to her in Banff.
Really? You think because these are your, what, formative years that you can just go ahead and hurt people's feelings just so long as you get something out of it? Well, I got news for you, Ned. These are TJ's and Vivian's formative years, too.
It's not like I'm going around...
Be that guy? That guy that teaches girls that guys are jerks and can't be trusted?
Noah, hey.
She told me she's doing a new movie with Daryl Hannah, who's a big anti-oil sands activist. But look what she said when I asked her views on ethical oil.
I mean, as long as it's cool with Canada, I'd rather get everything from Canada because it's the best place in the world. They're the best people. I think your politics are pretty good on track, your environmental policies, and, you know, I don't know what that means exactly because I'm not well versed on it, but if it's something that Canada wants to do with us and we want to do with them, I'd rather do anything with this country because you guys are awesome.
Right. Well, that made me feel pretty good. You know, I mean,
how can you be? It would be like kicking a puppy. You know, I mean, it's so nice.
I think she was drinking some of the Canadian beer. I'm just saying. They're not used
when
to
someone is nice to you, you return the. We shouldn't mock people. I mean,
I'm not mocking.
Whether naive or up, she's being very, you know, very nice, very sincere.
And she said, "Look, I haven't drilled down on the facts. These folks are here to have a good time." But you know what this taught me? This taught me that when a Hollywood celebrity comes out for this or for that, they're probably just repeating something some press agent put in front of them and just hoping it goes over well. I mean, these are not academic scholars. These are actors and actresses having fun.
I think you can tell the difference, though, between the people that you said earlier, the people that have the talking points and are just spewing them out, and the people that actually really have done some research.
But that's what normal people sound like.
Exactly.
What we just heard from Cameron Manheim is how normal people talk about oil. Do you want our oil? Well, if it's okay for you to sell it to us, we'll take all you have. Like she, you know what? But that's how normal people think and talk.
And we'd rather deal with Canada, right?
And my favorite line: "We're Americans. We're coming for your oil and water."
Right.
That's truer than anything.
I wish it was true in the case of Barack Obama. Hey, you guys, stick around. We got one more segment, and I think it's going to be the bestest. After the break, was Alicia Silverstone clueless when it came to the environment? You'll find out, and more on the green lifestyles of the rich and famous, including my interview with Alec Baldwin. That's next on The Source.
We're always on the move, morning to night. Doesn't leave much time to plan for the future. But what if something happened to one of us?
You never know what the future holds. That's exactly why you need Easy Term from BMO Insurance. With Easy Term, it's easy to protect your family with the right amount of life insurance coverage at the right price. Easy Term can help pay off your mortgage, give your kids a good education, pay off debts, or help replace your income so your family can have the life you always planned. Benefits are tax-free, and it costs so little. Less than $32 a month will provide $250,000 of protection for each parent. Get $250,000, $500,000, $1 million or more. Call now for a free personal assessment and find out how much coverage is best for you. Don't buy life insurance before you call BMO Insurance.
Mom, can we go? I don't want to be late for my swimming lessons.
Call 1-888-887-2508. That's 1-888-887-2508. Or visit our website. Call now.
In Canada, there's one network, one team of journalists, one group, dedicated to bringing you the truth, wherever the truth may lead. There's only one Sun News Network.
I was in Banff on Friday. It wasn't so cold then. Oh, good Lord, last night it was minus 20, minus 27 today. I'm glad to be in Toronto, words I don't always say. Hey, joining me today to talk about my visit is Jacqui Delaney, host of Newswire. Thanks, Jacqui.
Thank you.
And Lorrie Goldstein, our environmental commentator and expert, coming on every week. This is a little bit of a different pace because we're not drilling deep into policy. We're talking about celebrities. And, you know, frankly, celebrities have as much influence as any politician.
They have more.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what was so interesting to me, is I thought I was going into a nest of people who had this real hate on for the oil sands, and I really didn't detect it. Most of them were just having fun and trying to say the right thing. I don't think they really went deep. Their expertise is acting, not politics. Let's go to someone who, I mean, I didn't know everybody there. I don't follow all the tabs. I just saw a very pretty girl skiing, and I assumed she was a celebrity, and I later Googled her, and it turns out her name was, I have to look this up, Jennifer Finnegan. I'll show you why I don't know who she is, because she's on daytime soaps. Roll the Jennifer Finnegan clip.
Everything okay?
Alone, Dad.
Honey, what is it? What's wrong? Listen, whatever it is...
Go! Don't touch me! Just go away! Get out!
That, my friends, is dramatic acting. She's a tremendous thespian. That's the Bolder Than Beautiful for those of you who work during the day. You know, I talked to Jennifer about the oil sands very briefly, and she gave me this answer.
A lot of talk about sustainable energy. Until we have that sustainable energy future, I guess we got to put gas in our cars from somewhere. In that meantime, as an American, would you rather buy your oil from ethical oil in Canada or conflict oil from OPEC countries like Saudi Arabia?
Well, I'm Canadian, so you know what my vote is.
I want to hear you.
Definitely ethical oil in Canada.
Right.
I didn't even know she was Canadian or American. I'm Canadian, she said. Now, I didn't know this young lady, but, I mean, she's running with this fancy set. She's running with Alec Baldwin. And, look, she is here for Robert Kennedy's thing. That's the point. I'm not just going up to celebrities and talking about oil and gas out of the blue. They were here for an environmental thing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's like this big oil guy, even though he has some oil wells himself. And her instinct is, yeah, ethical oil from Canada. Are my questions too obvious? Were they too easy to answer, Jacqui?
Well, you know what? Those of us sitting here would say, yes, that answer is obvious. We think it's obvious. People like, she thinks it's obvious because to us it is obvious. I don't know why other people like Kenny Loggins, and I keep going back to that, it's not so obvious to him. It's very uncomfortable for him, I think, and I don't know why.
I think, Lori, people just haven't had that choice before. They just sort of thought it was oil sands versus some fantasy fuel of the future, and we'll get there one day, instead of the more grown-up reality choice with his ethical oil versus conflict.
You're giving them a hint because you're putting it as ethical oil versus conflict oil, which I agree with. However, you know, if there was somebody from Greenpeace or the David Suzuki Foundation beside you, they'd go, "Don't let this man deceive you," and then they'd go into the oil sands being dirty oil.
They'd say oil sands versus unicorn dust or something else, and I like unicorn dust. And that's what Kenny Loggins didn't want to get. He didn't want to accept that he jetted up here in a plane with jet fuel, and he drove up the mountain in a car with gas.
So that to me, he was a symbol of the entitlement culture. Don't question me while I'm being good. Don't. And the fact that, you know, think it through, Mr. Loggins. How did you get here?
I asked him that, and I didn't want to be mean because he's having fun. But you know, he's making a political point, and he's.
He was having fun. He actually, I think he's a bit of an angry man, to be totally honest.
He's angry with me. Let's move on because I got a few more clips. This is Alicia Silverstone, who. I'll just let her speak for herself. She was in the movie Clueless. She was in the movie Crush. She was in some music videos.
Batgirl.
Yeah, here's a quick. You're right. Here's a quick clip of her.
So, okay, the Attorney General says there's too much violence on TV, and that should stop. But even if you took out all the violent shows, you could still see the news. And so until mankind is peaceful enough not to have violence on the news, there's no point in taking out of shows that need it for entertainment value. Thank you.
She sort of talks that way in person, for real, in real life. Here's me asking her some gentle questions, and here's her gentle answers on the ski hill.
Well, I'd certainly rather take it from, if there's a, what was the source you said at first?
Canada.
But what are you guys doing that you say is sustainable?
Well, I mean, I said ethical as in we're not a dictatorship, we have women's rights, we don't have Sharia law, versus the OPEC countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran where they treat women and gays poorly.
Yeah, of course. I'm really a fan. I have a what do you call it? A vehicle that uses mostly electricity, but that's not even the best solution.
It's a hybrid, you mean?
It's a hybrid. And I go to a gas station that I think, well, it's like an eco gas station, but it's not. It's still oil, so that's the
so that oil's
tricky
probably
part.
coming from Saudi Arabia, do you think?
It's very possible, yes.
Do you think it's ethically superior? I mean, until we can get to the solar wind solution, do you think it's a better idea to get oil from Canada as opposed to Saudi?
It sounds like a better idea. I'm nervous to speak on it because I don't know for sure all the details, but for sure I'd prefer that. And in the meantime, you know, to be using doing your best to use as little transportation as possible, to be mindful of carpooling, to be mindful, you know, to ride your bike. I know Canada's wonderful. I mean, I don't know about all Canada, but in many places, Canada's so wonderful about those things. And but you also really need to watch your food intake. You know, it's all well and dandy to be talking about oil, but the amount of oil that you use to create meat products is out of control.
Lori, do you think that Alicia Silverstone has carpooled since she was a child?
That was my first thing, is that how many of these people, I mean, do they carpool to when they go to Europe? Yeah, no. But again, you know what? But they're not being, the real test here, are they being arrogant, entitled, and offensive? And they're not. Yeah. They're trying to be nice. Yeah, and so give them that.
And that's right. And that's the thing, Jacqui, I went there to get into fisticuffs. I couldn't. I found her quite likable.
Yeah, you know what? She's saying, look, she doesn't even know that it's called a hybrid, right? But I think her point is, I do what I can. You know, every little bit counts. And I think if we all just do every little bit, and in the meantime, you know, until we get to that point where we have a better option, in the meantime, let's go with the ethical oil of Canada rather than, you know?
She sounded very Canadian. Am I offending you? You know, like, it's okay. I do a hybrid.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But,
you know what? If that's the most environmentalist Hollywood gets, I'm fine with it. I want to jump straight to Alec Baldwin because he's a little more political. He's a little bit mouthy. You know, I caught him going up he was just coming in and just going up, and so I didn't want to take a lot of time, and I didn't want to fight with him, but I wanted to put a few questions to him. Let me show you. First, I want to roll you a clip from 30 Rock. Everyone knows Alec Baldwin, but here's a quick clip just to remind you how funny he can be.
You want a confession? Let's get this done so I can go eat. I'm divorced. I take the Lord's name in vain often and with great relish. I hit my mother with a car, possibly by accident. I almost let him choke to death right there on the football field. I looked the other way when my wig-based parent company turned a bunch of children orange. I once claimed I am God during a deposition. And I may have sodomized our former vice president while under the influence of some weapons-grade narcotics. Oh, it feels good to say that out loud, actually. That one was weighing on me.
That's so funny. He was a good sport. Here's my first question I put to him in Banff.
Talking about fracking, any views on some of the pipelines, the Keystone XL or the Northern Gateway?
Well, I mean, we're still in a situation where we need oil. I mean, that's a problem. And we can't be foolish enough to pretend otherwise. But I think that so much of these projects have to be construed now or constructed in a way where you have some dedication toward renewable energy. We need to have like a massive Apollo project in the United States to get us off of oil.
We've sort of had a massive Apollo project in the United States going back to the Carter years to find some alchemy to get us off oil. It's not working. I mean, at least he acknowledges we need oil in the meantime, right, Jackie?
Right, and I think it goes back, a few people have said that, and that is the biggest thing. It's exactly, they're acknowledging, as you keep saying, the fairy dust. The fairy dust isn't just going to magically get us there.
We got to move quick because I want to get in one more clip from Alec Baldwin and then a quick comment from Lorrie before the break. Roll the second Baldwin clip, please.
Until we get to the renewable future, if we're still using oil, would you prefer your oil to come from your OPEC countries or from your neighbors to the north?
That's hard to say because one of them is a more traditional form, if you will, of oil extraction over in the Middle East. But it seems like a lot of countries have to go in there and kill a lot of people in order to get that, and kill them quickly.
Do you think we're more ethical?
And then the problem here is that you get the oil without having to kill people, but maybe you are going to kill them in the long term. You know what I mean, with contamination of water, and the oil sands thing is a problem.
If you had two choices at the pump, one oil was from Canada, one oil was from Saudi, which would you fill up your car with? It's a real choice until we're at that renewable future, right? If you had two pumps, which one would you pump your car?
Well, I would probably say probably a mix of both. Mix? Because I think that the costs energy-wise to extract the oil from the sands, it's a massive footprint left from the process itself. The process itself is not a clean process. I mean, you're saying that the oil is there and it can be, and it's plentiful, and it's to the north, and it's Canada. Yeah, I get all that, but it's a very, very contaminating process that achieves that.
It is harder to get the oil out of the ground in the oil sands than out of Saudi Arabia, but there's less blood and murder involved. I think he was trying to draw a false moral equivalence.
Well, I don't realize that we have killed millions of Saudis.
Yeah.
It seems to me that individual Saudis, like the ones who flew the planes into most of them were Saudi, have been killing us. However, having said that, this is a mark that he understands. He's more attuned to the issues. What I would say, totally disagree with him. I disagree with him on his nuclear, because I don't think he realizes I think, they say we need oil. No, we need energy. We need power. Having said that, it's a civil point he's making. Yeah. You can debate, you know what I mean? Yeah. What I'm looking more for here is the arrogance we see from the Suzukis and the Gores, and I'm just not seeing it, which is good.
He drove up in his own SUV. Yeah. He talked about it. He recognized on the one hand, on the other, and he said, well, a bit of both. You know what? I call that progress.
Yeah, no.
Well, we got to take a commercial break. Our next guest was snowed in, so couldn't make it. So you guys stick around. We're going to have one more segment with the celebrity that impressed me the most with his answer on the environment, and a free celebrity endorsement for ethical oil. You'll be shocked who I'm talking about. Next on The Source. Welcome back. We're talking about visiting to Banff with Jackie and Lorrie. I met a fellow there. I didn't quite recognize him because I was thinking A-list Hollywood celebrity. He introduced himself to me and said things that startled me and made me rethink my whole visit to Banff. Here's the fella in his TV context. Look at this.
We think it's so important for the world to know that people are taught not just how to give back, but love what they're taught and love being part of it.
You might know him from Paul Mitchell Hair Products. You might know him from Patron Tequila. That's his stuff. His name is Paul DeJoria. And here's what he said when I just started talking to him about the weekend with Robert F. Kennedy and the Waterkeepers. Roll the first clip, please.
Quick question. What about the politics? Mr. Kennedy's a very political man.
Yes.
Do you have thoughts about oil and gas pipeline that Mr. Kennedy's talked about?
Besides being in tequila with Patron and, of course, Paul Mitchell with Hair Care Products, I'm also in the energy business. We have one of the only ecologically friendly companies that explores for gas and oil. But I'm 100% behind. As an oil and gas man, also 100% behind cleaning up the waters. 100% behind it.
So just 1 minute on your oil and gas. I had no idea. Tell me.
Yeah, most people don't. Yeah, it's an exploration company that has the state-of-the-art technology to find oil and gas anywhere in the world.
Are you active anywhere right now?
Yes, we are. Right now we're active in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of New Zealand. And we're looking at some other foreign countries too that have asked us to come out and do some exploration.
I won't keep you any longer. Have fun today.
You betcha, man.
Cheers.
I had no idea. I mean, I thought he was full of it. I thought, come on, this celebrity who's, a barber, has an oil and gas company, and my BS meter was going bing, 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 bing. I later checked him out. This guy's worth $4 billion, according to Forbes. I've never met a man worth $4 billion who walks around on his own so humbly. Let me roll one more clip of it, and then we'll talk to our two pundits about it. Roll the second clip of DeJoria.
There's a way now to clean up the fracking. Get me right back on again. Am I on?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a way in Canada and the United States to clean up the water from fracking, okay? Shale oil is fracking when you do the shale, okay? There's a company in Florida called Latitude Solutions, and they've developed a machine that cleans all the frack water to agricultural water.
So gray water can be used for ag? So you
Not just gray water. Yeah. I'm talking about the water that comes out with all the oil in it whenever they frack. That's a big deal now, is frack water.
Lori, this group that Kennedy runs is called the Waterkeepers. His number one attack is against fracking, which is short for fracturing. It's when you use sort of pressure to get oil and gas out of crevices in the rock. He hates fracking. His number one star guest, the patron of Patron, says, I'm into oil and gas, and there's a way to frack cleanly and clean it up. I thought, does Robert F. Kennedy Jr. know that you got a fracking advocate and practitioner in the Waterkeepers?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me if he was considered. But what this shows is that, Ezra, every great environmental achievement is done by technology. And this is the divide. The Suzukis, the Gores basically want to impose scarcity on us. It's not going to work. It's never worked. That's not how we advance environmentally. The way we advance environmentally is with people like this, who look how to make money, who look how to what does the world want? The world wants clean energy. Okay, how do I clean up the energy we have? The point is that these are the people, the entrepreneurs, who will eventually come up with the solution, even while they are criticized by the environmentalists every step of the way.
But Jacqui, this guy is worth more than everyone else here. It's $4 billion. I mean, Oprah's only worth $1 billion. This modest man walking by himself, I didn't believe him. I didn't believe him when he said an oil and gas company. What do you make of him?
Well, here's the thing that we haven't talked about when we've talked about our oil versus OPEC oil. Ethics is in, yes, we don't kill people and we have women's rights and everything, but he's also saying a big difference, too, between us and them is we continue to find ways, oil companies working in the oil sands, continue to try to find ways to do it cleaner and better. And that's also where we stand apart from OPEC oil.
You're right. I mean, they don't sit around in the Kremlin or Saudi Arabia palaces or Nigeria and say, how can we make it this much clean? They don't care.
Exactly.
I mean, and this guy was doing a little bit of boasting, saying I'm the only clean company in the world. No, he's not. But you know what? I like the fact that that's how he's branding himself. The man's worth $4 billion because he's obviously doing things
right.
Yeah. This guy shocked me. And when I checked him out and found out he really is legit, he owns utilities, he owns oil and gas, he really is the real deal. He was the most important man at the conference, not some blatherskite trust fund Kennedy kid. I was amazed. Lori, what's your final thoughts?
I think that I'm surprised. I'm surprised and pleasantly surprised, frankly. But I think that the real issue we have to remember is that it's the one they repeated over and over. Contrary to what the radical Greens tell you, we are going to need oil for our lifetimes, for our children's lifetimes, and for their lifetimes. We can be more efficient, we can be cleaner, we can do it better, We can introduce renewable energy as it becomes ready for prime time. But don't be, because listen to what they said. It's true. We are not going to have a future in our lifetime of wind turbines and solar panels.
That was something they all said.
Yeah.
Let me wrap up with a little montage of all of them talking about ethical oil. Folks, we're going to go to the break on this, but afterwards, come back. Your hate mail is after the break. But look at this montage as we go to break.
If you had two pumps to choose from, one would be ethical oil from Canada, the other would be conflict oil from Saudi Arabia or OPEC. Which should we use until we get to that?
Ethical oil from Canada.
Well, if I had to choose, I want it to come from the most ethical source possible. And if that's Canada, absolutely. Compared to OPEC, absolutely.